Welcome to the Romanian River channel and my first impressions of Stellar Tactics. This being the prologue chapter of the game, i.e. only a couple of hours worth of story content is available at the current time. The game itself is a RPG in the classic vein that is set in space and actually has to a degree at the current time spaceship activities, but so far no combat, only mining and basically running around and a rudimentary form of scanning. Besides that, the combat itself is turn-based, the party, and yeah, general stuff like that basically. The game at the current time is in deep pre-alpha and it shows. There are quirks, there are ticks. For example, for me personally, the not the combat, but the space scene itself, the space area of the game gets a wee bit weird in terms of visuals. I don't know if it'll be visible in the game when I show you guys certain areas, but when I first got into space, it was trippy to say the least. It had quite significant ghosting of the background, but that cleared up randomly. So yeah, being in pre-alpha, the game is not really optimized that well. It even has warnings on the side here, which people should actually read. Besides that, the game is also quite twitchy with OBS. I hope to God OBS doesn't crash or fail to record the game properly. Fingers crossed. But yeah, overall the game itself has potential, but before we get too much into details like that, let's go to options. Video is quite bare bones in terms of options to tweak, but so to say the game is visually non-demanding. God, I hate organ donors. Though they do great service to other people. Now, what was I gonna say? Yes. The game itself visually at the current time, without any visual polish, which usually happens around late alpha, early beta, well, it kind of looks like a mid 2000s mobile 3D game, to be honest. Yes, again, it has some bling here and there, which takes it beyond that level, but overall, it's not a pretty game. You're not going to be playing it for visuals, you're going to be playing it for depth. And as far as depth goes, yeah, it's alpha, so there's things lacking, like for example multiple options to certain quests or stuff like that. Now, before continuing, I would actually need to specify the developers, which is Maverick Games, which also published the game. And as far as I'm aware, they are a novice group, so to say, so this is their first game, which overall, I've played first games from developers which were quite a wee bit worse than this at beta stage. But before too many details, let's actually get into gaming, so to say. And one thing I would like to actually mention here, which is more or less a nitpick for the developers themselves. When you hit new game, you get the option to create all your team members or your main character, or even skip the initial prologue. For people who are playing during the prologue period of the development itself, don't skip this. You're not really gonna have much to play around with after it. This kind of actually also gives you a wee bit of a backstory, and boss fights are kind of annoying because you don't really get much in the way of potent weaponry up until you fight the first boss, and that guy is basically a hunk of meat you punch repeatedly up until he falls down, quite literally. But as I was saying, personally I don't think they should have the create all your team members bit. Because, and this is a minor spoiler for the prologue itself, they don't live. They're basically like in Pillars of Eternity, those two characters, you get the intro. I even forgot their name, even though I'm doing a Let's Play of Pillars of Eternity. So yeah, creating all your team members is basically pointless overall. Also, this loading screen has really no place in a game, but alpha, by the beta, I suspect when you hit cancel a new game, it will just take you directly to the menu without a loading screen. Now, for some nice space stuff. Maznari Ruins is a bit advanced. Let's go with the VATS. How should I put this? This is during the prologue section. It's about 1 to 2 hours in, depending on how long you faff about. Could even be 4 hours if you're really slow at doing things. Or take up the hard difficulty, in which case you're probably going to be repeating a lot of stuff. Come on. Loading for me isn't too hard. And I have a E31231V3 for anybody who doesn't know, but as can be seen by the FPS, not FBS, it's not well optimized. One nitpick I would like to give the developers as well. Let me just find an area to... Oh shit, this is too far ahead, I think. Yeah, it is. I wanted to show combat, so let me reload. Yeah, actually, for the developers, another nitpick. When you press tab to see objects around, yeah, they're not really too visible, so to say. I mean, in this particular case, quite visible, but for example, in darker or more well-lit rooms, like for example in this area, they'd be harder to spot. And these objects at least have a clearish outline. I'd want ideally to have more or less like in Pillars of Eternity the highlight system to work, because yeah, this can be a wee bit insufficient at times and you can miss quite important stuff. And by important I mean loot, shiny loot, important loot. Now let's actually get to a combat section. There's not really much to discuss about the game proper itself at the current time. I mean, it's more or less a vessel filled with potential, but it depends on the developers themselves to actually fill that vessel. And so far, as I've played over the quite a few months I actually had the game available and more or less poked it in terms of optimization, it's getting there, but they really need to step up on some basic stuff. Like for example, quests, they might be placeholder or they might be unfinished, but for a game of this category, I'd prefer to see some more flexibility in terms of quest variety, so to say. Because without it, yeah, things get repetitive, or you know. And I do believe here I bump into my first boss. Now as can be seen, turn-based combat, quite lovely. There's the boss. The hit percentages depend on skill and type of weapon. This being a rifle, it is suited for medium, even long range. Captain Fisher here has been infected by a rather lovely strain of space fungus, so to say. That's called in-game phage. I won't be going into too many details, because yeah, spoilers. But suffice to say, at the current stage of gameplay, they act exactly like zombies. They want to close in and do really rather nasty things to you. Nice, that's one down. Let's also move up to Bruiser. combat is both melee and range. This can be seen. The melee combat though is not really, how should I put this, advantageous overall. You're better off having a shotgun and SMGs than you are having rifle, well, not rifles, daggers and whatever the hell that thing is. This guy's holding sledgehammers, power hammers, whoever knows. I don't really spend a lot of time reading stuff. Yeah, I love the genre for some reason. And the ability to avoid boss fights like these by basically just talking your way out of it. And this guy is going to be a major pain. Because unlike these guys, the smaller ones, he's both tough, which means you're basically punching a slab of meat, and basically, how should I put this? He also does a wee bit of self-healing from time to time. The AI in the game is rudimentary at the current time, but what is then is quite, how should I put this? Sorry about that. As I was saying, really rather decent at getting close to you and dealing the damage it needs to do. One thing I kinda hope is Maverick tones down the advantages the NPCs have versus your guys whenever, nice. There is situations like boss fights, and basically just makes the AI smarter in their usage of grenades, abilities, and so on. Like for example that, he heals, and he healed for a lot. The inability to actually select or skip turns, or not necessarily skip turns, pause turns, so to say. It's kind of a bit of a disadvantage in this type of game. Because you can't plan tactically, so to say. You're always forced into doing things or not doing things, basically. This guy, if he manages to actually hit anybody, yeah, he does a decent amount of damage. As far as the health system goes, more or less, you have an ablative layer of regenerating health, a layer of non-regenerating health, and that's pretty much it. Death, at least at easy, is fairly easy on the progression. The dude just falls down, but no injuries and so on at the current time, at least. That may change in time, but it really depends on luck or how the developer decides to go about things. Oh, you little frisky bastard. She gained a level.
Level up.
Okay, stabby stabby. Good. I was the captain of your vessel, but he wasn't exactly sane anymore, so had to put the good old captain down before he decided to hunt a white whale through space. Now just need to eliminate this guy. It should be fairly easy. I hope. And then I can get to showing you guys the whole space element, because the conversation systems basically read, say okay, read, say okay. Not much really to have dialogue about with it. There we go.
I feel stronger already.
Now, in terms of character development, the more you use something, the better you get. It was seen earlier when I believe this chick got better with using SMGs by simply using SMGs. This gives you benefits in usage, increased range, increased damage, less action points. I'm gonna say energy, but action points basically. Consumed by it, yeah. The only thing you really have to play around with is the strength, agility, dexterity, endurance, charisma, perception, and intelligence, which each do certain things. There's no fixed preferences in terms of how you do things, i.e., if you're gonna do a tank, do endurance and strength. There's also a certain argument to be made about doing strength and agility because you don't get hit, so they technically do have a tank absorbing damage. So in this sense, it's more flexible than traditional D&D like systems. But yeah, so far so dandy with the game in terms of potential. Oh, and the boss being a boss, he's supposed to have decent-ish loot, but really didn't. Or where did he go down actually? Ah, he went down. Yeah, there we go. Counterbalanced half. Oh yeah, and weapons can be tweaked around with quite a bit, but I have not found yet the means to do so. It says you can craft, but I've not really played around with it that much. I suspect crafting's more or less get attachments or craft them yourself, or buy them eventually, and put them on your weapon more or less. Customizing things and increasing the longevity, but at the current time, with the rate at which you acquire new weapons, I've not really found a need for it, at least at easy difficulty. At medium, it might actually be required. Now for a quick idea of how the whole space element looks at the current time. Yeah, this is a screen from what you could expect in game in terms of encounters. The game does a really good job of world building in the background. In the prologue section and the mission or so, a couple of missions actually, but technically it's one overarching mission, i.e. getting a way to actually leave the system. In terms of building the world up, but overall you're still gonna be fighting zombies, though in the prologue it's dumb zombies like was seen earlier. In the post-prologue sequence is more or less smart zombies, i.e. they can use weapons of various types, no longer just clawing and biting, getting frisky basically. Now they can get frisky at a distance with you. I believe... was this pre or post? Post. I'm trying to keep the spoilers as minimal as possible, because these types of games do rely on their story quite a fair bit. And the story is such that it is, dealing with space zombies, is kind of an interesting take overall. Not seen it used quite that often. Yeah, certain things could also use refinement, like for example, when activating consoles there's a slight delay and you don't know if you actually managed to hit it or not. The activation, i.e. pressing tab to actually see where the console is and then clicking on it sufficiently to actually get it to interact is, well, as you can imagine, it's a wee bit twitchy. In the negative sense, i.e. it's an insensitive bastard at times. Come on, load. You can do it. OBS isn't consuming that much power. And you're not supposed to be that shy. It's running a wee bit slower than usual, but that's probably because it and OBS don't really like each other at the current time. Come on. Come on. You can do it. 22 FPS? Oh yes. Playing it through console FPS right now. Wow. Space is really not liking OBS. Wait. Yeah, there we go. Now, simple. Very simple. You select one of these, whichever way you want to go, and click approach. For example, we click approach here. Once you click approach, you can actually slow boat there to see if there's anything along the way. Currently there's not, and also you can see a wee bit of the ghosting action, though it was a wee bit worse when I played the first time in space. Speaking of space, press space to get boost. Hit approach. Once you exit the gravity well, which gravity wells are basically planets for anybody who doesn't know. Once we exit the gravity well, come on. There we go. If you want a slow boat, just hit approach and get more speed going basically. Or there's also the option of warping there by pressing, if I'm not mistaken, R. You get the idea that warp is going on because the whole blurry vision. Though with the whole blurry in the background, yeah. You don't know if it's just your game being a wee bit weird or if it's actually the warp drive activating. The one nice thing about the warp drive is it doesn't teleport you there automatically, so you can explore a wee bit better. That is one of the better choices the developers made. Now, in terms of, how should I put this, planetary bits, you can also scan, which will give you, let's actually get one that wasn't scanned by me. No, there we go. You hit scan, get a nice noise, and if there's anything to find, you'll get something like this. You get that. Oh wait, we don't have that cleared, I believe. Doesn't check cleared as naughty. No, we've been there. That's the ruin you start off with in the prologue sequence. You either get instances like these, or you get mineable areas, which you sell the information for at the current time. Hopefully later down the line, maybe a wee bit of planetary mining, maybe making homesteads. You know, a guy can hope. But yeah, as is, this is pretty much all I can say about the game at the current time. Because yeah, pre-alpha. Well, a lot of features aren't in. What's in is pretty unbaked. Will I revisit the game later on? Decently probable, because while it's not fun for me currently, because it is less baked than Pillars of Eternity is in terms of overall feel, and I do like my ability to actually get branching options with quests and dialogue and stuff like that. Later on, if that thing changes, yeah, I'll be back here quite in a jiffy, because space, exploration, character customization in terms of skills, flexibility in terms of stats, that crafting option, if tweaked around or increased, is also an interesting thing to play around with. And gods only know how much they can play around with the whole exploration mechanic in terms of instances. It's not exactly gonna be a game like in terms of planetary exploration, like for example No Man's Sky, even though No Man's Sky is kind of a bit shallow in terms of depth, but at least you'll have something in terms of being able to plop down on a planet every now and then and actually do something in there. Overall, if you're a ardent fan of the CRPG genre, it's worth taking a look. If you liked Pillars of Eternity or Divinity Original Sin or games of that genre, but you aren't exactly dying for a CRPG to play at the current time, may still be worth a look. Everybody else? Well, if you see it popping up on sale in early access for like, let's say 60 to 75% off, yeah, it's a decent time waster, and God's willing, with developers having enough money, they might actually not only get the game to the stage they want to do it as far as we can see at the current stage of development, you know, in terms of getting it fully baked and on the door, not out the window, but also increase that whole feature set with either free DLC or just basically increasing the baseline they want for 1.0. And anybody that doesn't like RPGs in general or thinks RPGs are nice if they're a backdrop to an FPS, yeah, this is not really the game for you. Thank you for watching, or more precisely surviving up until this point, because gods know the editing's kinda interesting and my voice has a melodic tone to it. If you like what you saw, feel free to hit the subscribe button, like button. It does help out the statistics of the channel, gets more visible, you know, stuff like that. And to be honest, at one point I would like to actually make this a job so I can do better content with better quality, more games, more coverage, you know, stuff like that. Take care.